Where legends breathe again. Eldmyth. She does not attack with claws or fire. She comes in silence, in dreams, in desire. Across medieval grimoires, religious texts, and forbidden demonology, the succubus was described as a demon that feeds not on flesh but on human longing. Appearing in the form of beauty itself, she slips into the night, blurring the line between temptation and terror. Was the succubus a demon of hell, or a reflection of forbidden desire, fear, and guilt shaped into myth? Tonight, we uncover the truth behind one of the most dangerous entities ever recorded. Because some monsters don't chase you, they invite you. The night is not empty. In the quiet hours between dusk and dawn, when the world of men succumbs to silence and the rational mind sleeps, another world breathes. It is a world woven from shadow and longing, from the unspoken desires that flutter against the ribcage like captive moths. And in this liminal space, a presence stirs. She is known by many names, a whisper passed through centuries, the succubus. Forget the crude caricatures. To understand her is to step into a realm of profound paradox, where terror and ecstasy are twin flames, where the most intimate embrace is also a haunting. She is not merely a monster of flesh, but a phantom of the psyche, a manifestation of the deepest, most forbidden chambers of the human soul. Her origin is not in hellfire, but in the quiet desperation of lonely beds, in the creative fury of repressed artists, in the fevered dreams of saints and sinners alike. She is the answer to a question never voiced aloud, the shape given to a hunger that has no name. To begin this journey, we must first feel her atmosphere, a charged, perfumed silence, the air thick as velvet, carrying the distant scent of night-blooming jasmine and cold, damp earth. Listen closely. Beneath the rustle of leaves, there might be the soft, rhythmic beat of wings, not of birds, but of something far more deliberate. Or perhaps it's only the wind, sighing through a crack in your window. The first rule of encountering the succubus is this: doubt is her greatest ally. She lives in the space between certainty and imagination, and from that fragile border she steps forth. The cultural tapestry from which the succubus first emerged is ancient and global, though her name finds its roots in the Latin succuba, meaning to lie beneath. Early whispers of her kind appear in Mesopotamian lore, with the vampiric Lilitu or Lilith, who refused subjugation and became a demon of the night, preying on infants and seducing sleeping men. In Jewish mythology, Lilith evolved into a queen of demons, a figure of independence and terrifying allure, giving a primordial shape to the fear of the untamed feminine. But the succubus, as we conceptually understand her, was crystallized in the medieval European imagination, a product of the monastic mind. In the cold, stone cells of monasteries, where the flesh was denied and the spirit was exalted, the succubus became a palpable terror. She was the ultimate test of faith, a diabolical instrument sent to corrupt holy men. Theological scholars like Thomas Aquinas grappled with her existence, weaving her into a complex demonology. She was not merely a fantasy, she was a doctrinal problem. How could demons, beings of spirit, engage in carnal acts? The answer was a chilling duality. The succubus would first visit a man, drawing his seed. Then, transforming into a male incubus, she would use that stolen essence to impregnate a woman, thus breeding more sin into the world. This grotesque cycle placed her at the heart of a supernatural economy of corruption, making her a direct architect of damnation, one stolen dream at a time. This theological fear bled into the everyday lives of common folk. The succubus was not just a threat to cloistered monks, she was a folk explanation for a host of nocturnal mysteries. A man waking exhausted, drained of vitality, with a lingering memory of a beautiful, mournful face. A succubus visit. Unexplained pregnancies, sleep paralysis, the terrifying sensation of a weight on one's chest, of being watched in the dark, all were laid at her feet. To protect against her, a rich tapestry of folklore rituals and protections was woven. Iron, a metal believed to repel spirits, was placed under the bed or shaped into amulets. Certain herbs like St. John's wort and vervain were bundled and hung above doorways or slept with under pillows. Their pungent, green scent a ward against ethereal intrusion. Prayers were fervently recited, not just to God, but to specific saints like Saint George. The most powerful charm, however, was light. A continuously burning candle or lamp, especially one blessed by a priest, was thought to keep the shadowy seductress at bay, for she could only operate in the realm of darkness and doubt. These practices were performed with a solemn, fearful reverence. Imagine a peasant family in their timber and thatch home as night falls. The father checks the iron nail driven into the window frame. The mother places a fresh bundle of dried herbs under the children's straw pallet. The fire is banked, but a small oil lamp is left to glow. The entire household settles into a watchful sleep, listening to the creaks of the house, interpreting every owl's hoot, every rustle in the thatch. The air is thick not just with wood smoke, but with collective anxiety. Yet for all the fear, there existed a strange, forbidden allure. In some tales, the succubus was not a mere vampire of vitality, but a muse. Artists, poets, and musicians plagued by creative block would whisper into the dark, inviting inspiration, and sometimes she would answer. The result was never straightforward. A painter might wake from a feverish, erotic dream with the complete composition of a masterpiece burning behind his eyes, only to find his health failing as he worked manic days to capture the vision. A poet might pen verses of unearthly beauty, lines that spoke of love and loss with paralyzing acuity, but the ink would seem to smell of ash and myrrh, and the writer would be left with a perpetual chill. These encounters spoke to a darker truth, that genius and madness, creation and destruction, are intimately linked. The succubus in these stories became the embodiment of that dangerous bargain. She offered the spark of divine inspiration but demanded a piece of the mortal soul as payment. The creative act itself was the seduction, and the resulting work of art was both a monument and a tombstone. This duality made her a complex symbol during the Romantic era, where artists sought to explore the sublime, the terrifying, and the passionate edges of human experience. She was the dark muse, the price of which was often a life consumed by its own brilliance. Let us delve into a specific legend, one that captures the tragic pathos often woven into succubus lore. In a remote alpine village, there lived a young woodcutter named Alaric, known for his strength but also for a profound melancholy silence. He had lost his wife to a winter fever, and though years had passed, his heart remained in a deep freeze. One evening, cutting a path through a forgotten part of the forest, he came upon a clearing bathed in unnatural silver light. There by a black mirror of a pool stood a woman of heartbreaking beauty, her hair like spilled ink, her skin pale as the moon. She wept silently, tears like liquid silver tracing her cheeks. She told him her name was Selene, that she was a spirit of the forest, cursed to wander until a mortal showed her kindness without demand. Alaric, moved by a grief he recognized, offered her his cloak. For weeks, she visited his lonely cottage. She never ate, never slept, but her presence filled the void in his life. She sang old songs, her voice like wind through pines, and the cottage grew warm. Alaric's strength returned, his laughter too. But the village priest saw the truth. The animals shied from Alaric's home, and frost never formed on his windows, even in the deepest cold. The priest warned of a parasite, a demon feeding on his lingering sorrow. Torn, Alaric confronted Selene. Her beautiful face crumbled into despair. "I do not feed on your sorrow," she whispered, her form beginning to shimmer. "I am made of it. Your loneliness summoned me. Your kindness sustains me. To be denied is to unravel." As the first light of dawn touched the window, she faded, not with a scream, but with a sigh of profound relief, leaving behind only the scent of frost and wildflowers and a man truly alone for the first time. Not all encounters ended with such bittersweet dissolution. Some myths cast the succubus as a more actively malevolent force, a hunter in the realm of dreams. There are tales of knights, sworn to chastity, who on the eve of a great quest would be visited. She would appear not as a weeping maiden, but as the perfect image of each man's most secret desire, a lost love, an unattainable noblewoman, a mythical goddess. The encounter would be overwhelming, a dream so vivid it felt more real than waking life. The knight would experience union, ecstasy, and then a crushing, draining emptiness. He would awaken to the dawn, his body weak, his spirit clouded, his sacred vows shattered in his mind if not in the physical world. The ensuing battle or journey would then become a disaster. His strength failed, his focus broken, his confidence replaced by gnawing guilt and shame. In these stories, the succubus was a weapon, deployed by rival sorcerers or demonic lords to cripple champions before a conflict even began. Her battlefield was the psyche, her weapons were memory and desire, and her victory was not measured in death, but in corruption. This version speaks to a deep-seated fear of the subconscious mind's power to undermine our conscious ideals. The knight's armor could deflect swords, but it was useless against the phantom that bypassed his eyes to speak directly to his heart and loins. The morphology of the succubus is as fluid as her nature. While most commonly depicted as a breathtakingly beautiful human female, the tales often hint at a truth that slips the mortal eye. In moments of passion or crisis, the glamour may flicker. Witnesses speak of shadows cast on walls that do not match the beautiful form, wings too large, limbs twisted, a tail lashing. Some accounts describe the touch of her skin, initially like cool silk, becoming unnaturally cold, like marble left in a tomb. Her eyes, pools of captivating depth, might for an instant reflect not the room, but a barren, starless void or a flame that does not warm. The most consistent attribute is her wings. Rarely the feathery wings of angels, they are often bat-like, of stretched leather and delicate bone, or sometimes insectoid, like those of a giant moth or dragonfly, shimmering with iridescent, hypnotic patterns. These wings are seldom used for grand flight. They are for silent descent, for enclosing a victim in a living canopy, or for a sudden, silent retreat into shadow. She is a creature of air and spirit, her feet often depicted not touching the ground, leaving no footprints, only a faint, sweet-trodden scent on the air where she stood. This ever-present potential for revelation, the horror lurking beneath the beauty, is what makes the archetype so persistently chilling. It is the ultimate betrayal of trust, the realization that the object of desire is, in its essence, utterly alien and predatory. Across the ocean in the folklore of Japan, we find a fascinating parallel and contrast, the yakai known as the Nurana or the Yukiana. While not succubi in the Western sense, they share the core motif of a beautiful, supernatural woman who preys on men, often with a deadly or draining embrace. The Yukiana, the snow woman, appears on frozen mountain passes, a vision of pale beauty in a white kimono, her hair as black as night. She leads travelers astray to freeze to death, or sometimes spares one who shows her kindness, only to vanish when her identity is revealed. The Nurana, a wet woman with the body of a serpent, is sometimes found on shorelines, combing her hair, who ensnares men with her beauty before crushing them with her powerful tail. These entities, like the succubus, are born of specific environmental and cultural fears, the lethal cold of the mountain, the treacherous sea. They represent nature's sublime indifference given a female, alluring form. The key difference is often a lack of the overtly sexual corruption central to the Christian succubus. The danger is death itself, not damnation of the soul. This comparative mythology shows that the archetype of the fatal, enchanting female spirit is a global phenomenon, a psychic response to the mysteries of nature, mortality, and male desire. The Enlightenment and the rise of scientific rationalism sought to banish creatures like the succubus to the realm of superstition. Sleep paralysis was given a medical name. Nocturnal emissions were explained by biology. Psychological theories explained her as a manifestation of guilt, particularly sexual guilt, or as a personification of repressed desires. Yet, she did not vanish. Instead, she migrated. She found a new home in the burgeoning genres of Gothic literature and romantic art. In Goethe's Faust, the demon Mephistopheles can be seen as a grand, philosophical incubus-succubus figure, offering forbidden knowledge and experience for a price. In John Keats' poem Lamia, the titular serpent woman who becomes a beautiful maiden to win a lover's heart is a direct cousin to the succubus myth, exploring themes of illusion, truth, and the destructive power of revealed nature. Painters like Fuseli and later, the symbolists, depicted her in canvases bursting with psychosexual tension. Here, she was no longer a doctrinal demon, but a symbol of the irrational, the passionate, the subconscious forces that the age of reason could not, and could not afford to, fully suppress. She became the dark emblem of everything that civilization tried to chain. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the succubus has undergone yet another transformation, proliferating in fantasy literature, role-playing games, cinema, and television. Often, she is stripped of her profound metaphysical terror and reduced to a trope, the sexy female demon with horns and a tail, a staple of bad girl aesthetics. Yet, even in popular culture, deeper resonances sometimes surface. In series like Supernatural or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, succubi appear as complex antagonists, sometimes even sympathetic figures, cursed by their own nature. In modern paranormal romance, she is often a protagonist, her draining powers a metaphor for the challenges of intimacy, or a power to be controlled and ethically managed. This evolution reflects a shifting cultural relationship with sexuality and the feminine. The medieval terror of female sexuality as inherently corrupting has diminished, allowing the succubus to be reinterpreted as a figure of empowerment, transgression, or personal struggle. However, the core elements remain. She is an outsider, a being of intense desire, operating at the crossroads of pleasure and peril. Her modern incarnations prove that the archetype is endlessly adaptable, a mirror to contemporary anxieties and fantasies about power, gender, and the boundaries of the self. What then does the succubus ultimately represent? She is a mythic lens focusing on several enduring human fears: the fear of the night and the vulnerability of sleep, when the conscious mind relinquishes control; the fear of desire itself, its power to overwhelm reason, to shame, to destroy carefully constructed lives. She embodies the ancient distrust of the feminine as mysterious, other, and potentially annihilating, a concept embedded in everything from Pandora's box to the femme fatale of film noir. But she also represents a profound longing. She is the fantasy of the perfect lover, one who knows your deepest wants without being told, who comes without the complexities of human relationship, and who leaves before the dawn reveals her flaws. She is the ultimate escape from loneliness, and in that escape, the ultimate trap. In a psychological sense, she is the shadow self, the repressed id given form, demanding recognition and satisfaction at any cost. To dream of a succubus is to confront the parts of oneself that are hungry, wild, and untamed. As our exploration draws to a close, we are left not with a definitive answer but with a lingering presence. The succubus defies categorization. She is a demon, a muse, a predator, a prisoner of her own nature. She exists in the whisper of silk against skin in a dark room, in the sudden, irrational yearning that strikes in the quietest hour, in the creative impulse that feels like it comes from somewhere else. The forest where she was said to dwell may be paved over, the monastery cells turned to museums, but the interior landscape she haunts remains. The human soul still has its shadowed corners, its unspoken hungers, its moments of exquisite vulnerability between sleep and waking. And so, perhaps, she remains, not as a literal entity waiting in the woods, but as an eternal potential within the human experience, a shape our fears and longings take when the lights go out. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, pay attention to the space between thoughts. Listen to the quiet of your own home. The scent of night air, the pattern of shadows on the ceiling, are they just what they seem? Or is that a flicker of motion, a suggestion of a form beautiful and terrible at the edge of your vision? The rational mind says no. But myth, that older, deeper voice, simply smiles and whispers perhaps. Another legend fades, but the next awaits. Like this video, subscribe and continue the journey through myths.